Hi everybody, it's Mark here. I'm just continuing my series of unlocking the court cards. And today we are up to the Prince and or King of Discs or Pentacles, however you call it. So as I said, we are following the Decan wheel around the year. So we did the Queen of Wands first because it was Aries, the spring equinox. And then we move into the Taurus energy, which is the Prince of Discs, which we see here. So I guess I have to talk a little bit about the controversy. Is the Thoth Prince the RWS King, or is the Thoth Prince the RWS Knight? I firmly believe for myself that the Thoth Prince is the RWS King in training, because we see the Taurus, very Taurus applications on each of the cards, with our bull here on our prince and our bulls up here with our king. It just, if you were to compare the knights from both decks, you see just how close they are to each other. So they really should be the ones that are swapped out and not the Prince for the Knight, which many people do, many very learned people, so they may know something I don't know. But in terms of visuals and the artistry and the astrological sign applied, it's these two that go together for me. So one thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention last time when I was doing the Queen of Wands, and that is that each of these court roles are assigned to very specific pip card numbers. In other words, all the queens in your deck, when we look at their pip 10-degree decans, have the number 10 of a suit and the number 2 and 3 of the next suit. So all queens are 10s, 2s, and 3s, which makes sense because they land in the times of the year of the spring equinox, fall equinox, summer solstice, and winter solstice. So they really are the endings and beginnings of very specific seasonal shifts. So we go from the 10 to the 2, so that's an ending to a beginning. The aces sit with the princesses outside the 36 Decan wheel circle, and I'll get into that more when we get to the princesses. So in terms of the princes, which we're looking at today, all princes are 4s, 5s, and 6s. So the queens being the 2s and the 3s and the 10s, having to do with endings and beginnings, not just seasonally, but they bring forth life, birth life, literally. So it makes sense that they are at the beginning with the 2s and the 3s. 3s being a very creative number. But when we get to the princes, they are, oops, that's the Hierophant. Sorry, when we get to the princes, we'll get to the Hierophant in a minute. They are all the 4s, 5s, and 6s of their various suits. The 4 part is in the shadow piece of the previous zodiac sign, and then the 5 and 6 is in the more prominent zodiac sign for the prince. So they get a little lingering Aries energy from the 4, but then they move into the Hierophant with the 5. And the Hierophant is the one that is most sort of related to this card, as Taurus is, with a little bit of Emperor energy there as well. So it's interesting that a prince, which is sort of like a king in training, would go from 4 to 5 to 6, because 4 is very stable, and princes are considered the firstborn of the king and the queen of that suit. So the firstborn, is coming. If you have a king and a queen for mother, chances are you're coming to a very stable or 4-ish environment. But because they also rule all the 5s and the 6s, there is a turmoil or a challenge that they have to overcome in the 5s, and then they ultimately succeed in the 6s. And so that's kind of their story, going from, like, for all princes, all 4 of the princesses, going from stability to challenge and change to a very successful outcome. And it's funny because all of my sun, moon, and rising are all prince cards according to the dates or the actual area of the zodiac that the planets or rising sign are sitting in. So in other words, I have early Taurus rising and early Taurus moon, and I have a late Cancer sun. So I am the Prince of Wands and twice the Prince of Discs, which we're looking at today. And I've always said to friends and family that, initially things kind of blow up in my face, that 5 energy, like things go wrong. Accidents occur, the unforeseen, the rug being pulled out. But then there's always something really wonderful that ultimately comes out of that when I move into the 6 energy. When you're in the 5 energy, you don't even see the 6 as a possibility. But somehow or other, things get turned upside down, things don't go the way I expected them to, and then I see the gift of the 6 later on. So I can really identify with this Prince energy and this 4, 5, 6 kind of sequencing. So anyway, the specifics of this Prince of Discs, if it was to apply to you, is the dates of April 11th to April 20th is the first decan of the Prince of Discs. Then we have April 21st to April 30th, and then May 1st to May 10th. So those the whole range of the Prince of Discs according to your birth date. If you're going by positions in your actual zodiac chart, like I was just referring to with my moon sign and my rising sign, then you'd be looking at 20 to 30 degrees Aries, 0 to 10 degrees Taurus, and 10 to 20 degrees Taurus. So what is going on is the Prince of Discs rules over the 4 of Wands, that's the Aries piece in the shadow, and rules over the 5 of Discs and the 6 of Discs in the Taurus part of the decans, but is missing the 7 of Discs, which is the last Taurus decan, or Taurus sign, but is not given to the Prince of Discs as a decan. It moves into the Knight of Swords and becomes part of their decan rulership. So again, here we have it. If you want to just look, here we have the dates and the degrees. So we start with the last bit of Aries and then the first 2 bits of Taurus for the Prince of Discs. In green, I've shown that the 7 of Discs, or the end of Taurus, is moved on into the Knight of Swords, as I just said. And so let's break down how this all might work for our Prince of Swords here. So his most prominent or compelling tarot card is the Hierophant, but he also has that little bit of Emperor energy. As you remember, the Queen of Wands was mostly Emperor energy. So he got her last little dribble of Emperor to go with his Hierophant. So when I look at these 2 cards, boy, do I see daddy energy. This is real Papa Bear stuff. This guy is sort of setting us on a course for following the rules of society and morality in general, teaching us what we have to know to get along with others, to get along with ourselves. And this guy's just setting down rules just for the sake of needing and liking order. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of rules and regulations with this Prince of Discs. I know for myself, I'm very methodical, and just the fact that I'm attaching all this stuff to this system of the Decan wheels shows you how much I appreciate a system that has a spiritual component. So these two cards really sort of vibe for me. And interestingly enough, the very first Decan, if we're not looking at the Aries piece yet, we'll save the shadow for the last little bit. So the first proper Taurus Decan is the Five of Discs, which is worry in the Thoth deck. You can just see all these gears going around and around and around and around, and the light is trying to get in, but you just can't get your brain off of whatever it is that's occupying your mind. Like a dog worrying a bone, so to speak. These symbols here are just the elements in a pentagram turned on its end, so that spirit is, matter has sort of taken over from spirit. It's a Mercury and Taurus card officially. And my moon sign and rising sign are both in this Decan. And I am a worrywart. I always have been. And it's just the thing I have to carry in life and try to deal with. Of course, it all looks even worse when you show the RWS situation in that card. So maybe this is why I like the Thoth. This isn't quite as disturbing. So the next Taurus card is, like I said, you go from the problematic 5 to the more successful success of the 6. And the 6 is really, this is the center of the tree of life. It's where the sun energy, where our holy guardian angel lives, our guiding spirit, if you want to speak in those terms. So it's a beautiful card. It's beautifully balanced. Moon is in Taurus, and that the moon is exalted in Taurus because Taurus is so stable, and all the fluctuations of the moon sort of get more stabilized. They're not as up and down, and I can say for myself, even though I'm a Cancer, I'm not really moody like a lot of Cancers are, because I do have the moon in Taurus, and that stabilizes my ruling planet of the moon. So good things happening in the 6. This is all behind the Prince of Discs. This gives the energy of someone providing for other people here. He's sort of handing out the goodies. And going back to the initial cards that I showed you, I really feel that the Prince of Discs is the provider of the court cards. I mean, this guy's coming in from a plowed field with all the crops and all the flowers and a full chariot here to dole out. And this guy is just covered in grapevines and all kinds of wonders that he can share. This has got a banker vibe to it. It's a financial vibe to it, maybe stockbroker vibe to it, but mainly, like I said, going back to that father vibe. It's sort of daddy bringing home the bacon. Not that mommy can't bring home the bacon or mommy can't be daddy, but you see where I'm going with that. So the shadow card is the 4 of Wands in terms of this Prince of Discs. And here it's called completion. They both give this energy of a sacred circle, or perhaps partnering is going on, a partnership is going on because of the dove coming together with the ram. This is like Libra and Aries, natural partners. And so if this is in the shadow, I do know for a fact that people with lots of Taurus are obsessed with completing things. Whatever they start, they will finish, which is a wonderful trait. But I wasted a lot of hours in my life feeling that just because I started a book, I had to finish it, even though I wasn't enjoying it. Same with a movie, relationship, whatever. You just keep going and hope it gets better. And that can work in the shadow. It can work against you. Sometimes there is a time to just say, okay, pull the plug, enough is enough. And so there's that kind of energy that's going on in the shadow. And also bringing in the terms of this possibly being a wedding ceremony of sorts. This guy might be just too concentrated on his work and attaining a place in the world to be as distracted by marriage and partnership. That's just one way of possibly looking at it. Now, as I said, the missing piece is the Seven of Discs, or Pentacles, and it goes to the Knight of Swords. So what is the Prince of Discs missing out on? Well, failure is not an option. They just won't allow for it. And that's why, again, this completion piece of the shadow, why they keep going and going and going. Like if someone's lost their keys and they have tons of Taurus in their chart, they're going to keep looking until the sun comes up, and they're going to find them. They're certainly not going to give up. So this failure, this sort of blighted crop, as we can see here as well, is not part of the Prince of Discs. That goes to the next sign, and it goes to their shadow. And so yeah, failure is not an option for the Prince of Discs. He is going to keep plugging away until he turns this crop around. So I've often thought that this card isn't given enough, I guess negativity is the word. People think, oh, you just have to be patient, the crop is coming in, just keep your eye on it. But look at his slumped shoulders and the expression on his face. He's not happy with what he's sort of achieved here. And I think some of these leaves are starting to go brown, and I think that perhaps this blight is coming. And so it doesn't mean that it has to stay as a failure or stay as blight, but he's going to have to do something. He can't just stand there and watch and hope. He's got to tend to the plant. And the Prince of Discs is really good at that, paying attention, making sure that the crops come in and come in as they should. So I think that's all I have to say on the Prince of Discs. I hope I haven't left anything out. I usually do, and then think about it later. But anyway, we will see you next time with the Knight of Swords. Bye for now.